Going for boost over. Well, I think going for boost if you're a boost merchant, like someone like AJ or someone, you go for boost.
100% of the time.
Yes.
Always, every second of every game. Ball's going in your net, don't worry about it. Go get the boost and make sure you've got the full 100 to celebrate with the other team.
Boost over ball is a good time when your opponent is dribbling towards your own corner and you know it has no threat to go into your net at all. And your teammate is behind you for sure. If all of those align, it's better to just take your corner boost, let him just dribble into the wall for useless and force him to go back with 0. That would be a better time to take boost over ball.
If you've ever wondered when the best time to go boost over ball is, you've come to the right place.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Boost Over Ball podcast. This is Ace, or Code Red Jack. I'm here with Kyle, and we're here to tell you more about what happened last week in RLCS. We had the North American Winter Cup, and so we'll go over the details there. We'll talk about some interesting stuff that's going on in APAC, and generally discuss some of the weirdness we're seeing with the championship points and stuff that's going on with who gets to go to invitationals and things like that. But again, welcome back. As always, please take the time to like, follow, and subscribe us on all of our various socials. We have a Twitter, a Discord. We're also, wherever you get your podcast, please, it means a lot to us to have the support for you to jump on to wherever you get your podcast and give it the 5 hearts, 3 a thumbs up, or whatever it is on each of these platforms. And yeah, so welcome back. We're going to get right into it. Start us off, Kyle.
I figured we could jump into the APAC stuff first before talking about some of the other RLCS content, but for people who kind of haven't been following along or haven't seen, so originally, James Cheese, we had Coach LBP Lachlan on, and he is the current coach for now Elevate, which is the former James Cheese roster, and that includes Realize, Virtuoso, and Kami. Realize is a Japanese-born Rocket League player and competes in APAC, and Virtuoso is from EU, and Kami is from OCE. And they're currently competing in Asia Pacific. They are doing extremely well for themselves. They've won all but one regional event thus far, and they look poised to take their second major, or the winter major spot for the upcoming major. But Shift RLE, one of the premier kind of esports reporting sites out there, just did a interview with the coach for Detonator, probably the second place team in APAC, and it was a good interview, but the last question kind of stuck out, and it was, really, what are your feelings on Elevate coming into the region, and how do you what do you think? And he talked about how, Elevate wasn't available for scrims between the fall and the winter splits, and, that he wasn't sure how he felt about them being in the region. And it's kind of all gone downhill from there, in my opinion, with Kami and Coach LBP both tweeting that they've gotten death threats from people, and just it's beyond surprising to me. Continuing on with that, CJ, Rizzo, and Johnny Boy were talking on their podcast, Chalkedcast, last week, and they basically said, they were talking about the Sub-Saharan Africa transfer from that CRL team, and they were basically saying that, like, if you were going to region transfer, you should join the ecosystem, so to speak. You should be scrimming teams in your region. You should be queuing ranked in that region, trying to better the competition in your region by staying there and playing there and being a part of it. And that's quite frankly what Elevate has done, in my opinion. You know, they're scrimming, they're doing everything they can to raise the level of competition in the region. And as for, you know, going home in between the fall and the winter split is, you know, Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year, you know, the holidays, the kind of time when you would want to go home and spend time with your family. So I can't blame them for not scrimming in the region then if they're, you know, on a vacation to go back home to see their families after, you know, living and competing in the region. I just, in my personal opinion, there's no place for death threats to players and, you know, coaches and organizations for competing and, you know, taking advantage of the opportunity that they have.
Yeah, that is probably one of the most confusing things I've ever heard. I don't know why anybody would get that worked up over, even if it was 100% completely true, which I do not believe it is. I do not for 1 second believe that they're not contributing to the ecosystem. I just think people are sore and sour because they're not, you know, competing against them as well as they'd like. And so they're coming up with BS. But even if it was completely true, there's it's such a weird escalation. Like, I just can't imagine the type of person or the type of, you know, I don't know. I have a lot of strong words about that, but I maybe not recorded.
Yeah. I mean, it's
basically
it's wild, like, because the APAC region gets one major spot, which, so, like, I can understand they're taking they're winning and taking a major spot from another team in the region who is, you know, solely from that region, but at the same time, like, they're increasing the level of competition in the region, right? So, like, if Elevate comes in and they haven't been able to, you know, they dominated the region, you know, maybe their elevated level of play, you know, pun intended there, but their level of play will allow them to take some games and some series off of teams in the major, which they, you know, they weren't able to do last time. But I don't know that how much better anybody else from that region would fare, you know, in the same position. So I don't understand how you can sit there and tell me that they don't deserve to have the spot after they're, you know, performing the way that they are. And quite frankly, how is this really any different from Gen G? They transferred from a region, like a similar leveled region, and they have 2 region transfers and a native, just like Elevate does, and they're competing and taking a major spot away from, you know, teams that are fully from the region. How is it any different? Why are people not up in arms about Gen G? It's the same thing.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it is the same thing. Early on in the podcast, that, like, I basically considered Gen G EU anyway because they were mostly EU and I think that's where they came from. And, you know, that may not have been the best, you know, hot take back then. But, like, even then, I never once was like, you know what I should do? I should go and do some death threats. Like, what kind of moron are you? Whoever it is that's out there, screw you. That's all I can say. But let's move along. Let's not dwell too much on the drama. But it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I just felt it needed to be said, and, you know, with the platform that we have, however small it may be at this current time, I feel like, you know, our opinions kind of matter, and, you know, we've been, you know, James Cheese, now Elevate fans since the beginning. I don't see how they're bringing anything but, you know, positive growth to the region. So, you know, up the boys. Hope they continue to do what they're doing, and hopefully we'll get to see them in San Diego in a few months.
Absolutely. And now, moving right along, groups. Let's talk groups. So, groups this time around, we had, you know, the same Group A through D. Obviously, I don't need to explain that to anyone listening. But in Group A, we had Gen G Mobile, Dignitas, Koi, and Optic Gaming, with Gen G going 3-0. That's completely expected. But what was not expected is that Optic ended up going 0-3 and falling out, making the other 2 people that came out of Group A being Dignitas and Koi.
In Group B, we have FaZe Clan, M80, NRG, and Shopify Rebellion. We have FaZe Clan going 3-0, Shopify Rebellion going 0-3, and M80 and NRG moving through, which unfortunately makes my super hot take of NRG winning that group look really bad. But, hey, here we go.
Well, I think we called. Didn't we call Shopify out for that one? Was that the one that we said was the cannon fodder? I think I said Koi for Group A, and that was way wrong. But going on Group C, we're looking at G2, Version 1, Knights, and Ghost Gaming. And G2 goes 3-0, Ghost Gaming goes 0-3. The rest kind of fall exactly where you'd expect, with Version 1 and Knights both going through.
And finally, in Group D, we got Complexity, Space Station Gaming, Furia, and Accru, with Complexity going 3-0, Accru going 0-3, and Space Station and Furia also moving on beside Complexity.
I would say, for me, the biggest surprise going out of groups was Koi. Making it out of groups, I was not expecting the performance that we saw from them. And I'll get to talk to them just a little bit more about them just a little bit more in a second here, because we're gonna start talking about playoffs. But was there anything else you saw in groups that was just like that stood out to you?
Furia going 1-2. I kind of thought that they would do a little bit better, and on that same token, back in Group D again, Complexity going 3-0. That's a fantastic showing for them. I kind of expected, with the stacked group that they kind of had, that they would at least drop one series. But after going to Game 5 with Furia, they won in convincing fashion over Accru and SSG. So, good for them.
Well, the other big standout for me was M80. Like M80, they really showed up at the last event, and they showed up again at this event. Going on is to sweep NRG in their group, in the group stage, and getting out of their group in second place. Like that team is really grinding and really coming out strong in this split.
Yeah, they certainly performed well. So I mean, we'll talk about them a little bit more here in a second. But moving into playoffs.
Oh man, playoffs. Looking at the top half of the bracket, we had M80 sweeping Furia, and then we had a going to Game 5 loss for Version 1, losing to Koi.
In a reverse sweep.
In a reverse sweep. That's right. That is right. They reverse swept Version 1 and ended up taking them in quarterfinals. Absolutely just beautiful to watch.
And on the bottom half of the bracket, we have the Pittsburgh Knights sweeping Dignitas and Space Station beating NRG in Game 5 in another reverse sweep to advance to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, so one of the best things about this weekend is just like the number of reverse sweeps that occurred in these playoffs and group stages were just, it was astronomical. I think at one point the announcer said it was about 20% of all series had reverse sweeps in them, which that is just mind-boggling. Like, it was so exciting to watch, because you'd be like, okay, this is over, and you'd go like, I'm gonna go make lunch or something and come back and it's still going. Going into the quarterfinals, we are now looking at the top half here, and that's Gen G versus M80, which turned out to be a very close series, much closer than anybody would have guessed, because it ended up going to Game 6 with Gen G taking Koi 4 games to 2, and then the other side of the top half is Complexity versus Koi, and we're looking at the same story here. Koi holds on and ends up taking 2 games off of Complexity and eventually losing the whole series in the 6th game.
On the bottom half of the bracket, we have FaZe Clan sweeping Pittsburgh Knights 4-0 and G2 beating Space Station in Game 7 overtime, a 4-minute overtime game to advance to the semifinals. FaZe continued their run of incredible play through day 2, only dropping 1 match total up to this time, and that was on day 1 to NRG.
And now we go into the semifinals. And semifinals, this is where it starts getting pretty one-sided. So Gen G versus Complexity, they just straight sweep Complexity.
And on the bottom half, FaZe Clan take down G2 in 6 to advance to the grand finals.
And now we get to talk about some of the best Rocket League I've ever watched. I absolutely loved this series. We're talking Gen G versus FaZe Clan. Everybody had it going Gen G's way. Well, I think it was like 75-25 according to the stream, right? I was also like, oh, no chance. Gen G in their games against Complexity were on their marks. They were on it. I was like, there's no way, unbeatable. But that was not the Gen G that ended up in the game against FaZe. They end up going down 3-0 and then come back to end up in Champions Field 3 games. I mean, and it was just an absolute just brawl between these two teams. I mean, we're looking at like after Gen G takes a timeout after game 1, which is almost never unheard of, right? And the timeout magic didn't work. They lose the next 2 games. It's looking over, and then they start to come back. They win in the Coliseum 2-1, and then they absolutely destroy FaZe in the 5th game, going 6-0 over FaZe. FaZe takes a timeout. They lose the next one, Neo Tokyo 3-2. Close. It was in overtime. And we go to Champions Field. It's now looking like reverse sweep for Gen G to continue on their path of absolute dominance. And suddenly the magic's gone. Like Nolly is missing touches. I think I saw Chronic miss a completely open net at least once. It was just like, who are these guys? What happened to Gen G? And they end up losing 5-0 to FaZe, and FaZe takes the event. It was gorgeous. It was so much fun to watch. But interesting notes, and then I'll hand it back to you. Sorry, Kyle. I'm just like yapping, but oh my god, it was so much fun. So Gen G making it to grand finals. This is now their 6th grand finals in a row that they've made, giving them now they are now the current record holders for a number of grand finals in a row. Some other really interesting things is since this team was created, since these 3 players started playing together, they've never not made it to grand finals. I still think of them as the best team, but obviously they're not completely infallible. FaZe just punched their ticket, which is good because I remember feeling like FaZe was completely unbeatable at, what was that, the Fall Open?
Yeah, the very first regional event of the season.
Yeah, they were absolutely destroying everybody. I was like, okay, well, first killer, and that team is all right. And since then, they have not really shown up. Well, we've been calling them Fourth Clan.
Yep.
Oh man, but yeah, they came back. And I hope I'm here for it. I hope they continue on this because I want to see the Winter Invitational be FaZe versus Gen G. I don't know if that can even happen, but we'll see. Oh, Invitational's not international. I know this. I have a podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. No. It's the last regional event of the split.
Yeah. So I want to see FaZe and Gen G again in the Invitational, because
rubber
compared
match.
to everybody else, yeah, absolutely.
Well, they've each won one in the grand
Okay.
finals.
Okay.
Actually, that's a lie. Gen G beat them, I'm pretty sure, in the fall.
Nope. Gen G lost to FaZe. That was the very first event that
Yeah.
FaZe ended up destroying them in.
But then in the fall invitational, they swept FaZe in the grand finals.
Oh my. So
And-
now FaZe is up 1.
Yeah, FaZe is up 2-1. 2 grand final wins to 1 against Gen G.
Oh no. Oh man, I love this storyline. Let's go. Come on, Gen G. Invitational. Come on, FaZe. Don't let us down. I want to see Gen G whoop your butt in the Invitational.
You don't want to see Fourth Clan?
I don't want to see Fourth Clan. I want to see FaZe Clan to grand finals and then get swept by Gen G again.
Fair. They looked as good as they did in that first regional event. They were dominant throughout their run, and Gen G is equally a dominant team, and they showed it almost fighting back for a reverse sweep in the grand finals. you can't really ask for much more entertaining Rocket League than that. Moving ahead, I kind of wanted to point out some of the surprises that I had going into the playoffs. First off, M80 sweeping Furia. That was not something that I saw happening. M80 certainly seems to be firing on all cylinders. Being able to compete and perform well across multiple days is fantastic for them. Making top 8 again. And Koi beating version 1. Another surprise result. I can't say I had either of those on my bingo card. So, that is fantastic for those two teams kind of bursting onto the scene, performing really well, and being able to continue to make a name for themselves in this new format. And lastly, Pittsburgh Knights sweeping Dignitas. Dignitas, after the last regional event, was one of the teams that we kind of assumed would continue their run of form, making another top 8 after looking so good previously, but they are not able to recapture that form as they are swept by Knights in the first round. What were there anything else that kind of stood out to you, other than some of the Gen G and FaZe stuff?
I mean, not anything I haven't already mentioned as far as that goes, because I will say a little surprised that G2 and Space Station was as close as it was. I have not. I didn't see a lot of good coming out of Space Station leading into that. I mean, they did sweep Furia, but so did M80. Space Station sweeps Furia in groups. M80 sweeps Furia in round 1. Furia is doing well, but they are not performing like they were last season when they were competing in a different area, right? But I mean, honestly, the thing that surprised me more than anything else is that we're seeing these new names making it into quarterfinals. M80 and Koi, like you said, absolutely fantastic to see them excelling. And the other thing was just all the reverse sweeps. I can't believe how many reverse sweeps there were. I just can't get over that. It was an intense weekend of Rocket League.
Yeah, it was. Half of the round 1 series were reverse sweeps. That's fantastic to see. But moving on past this regional, where does that leave us? So we'll take a quick look at the NA Winter rankings, with a reminder that the top 5 teams from North America will make it into the Fall Major, and the top 16 teams will make it into the Winter Invitational. So first off, in first place, we got Gen G. Just looking at the winter rankings here, Gen G with 39 points, Complexity with 31 in second, FaZe with 28 in third, G2 with 27 in fourth, Dignitas with 20 in fifth, M80 and Space Station Gaming tied for sixth with 19, Furia, Knights, and NRG tied for 8th with 16, and then Koi, Version 1, Optic, Shopify, Accrue, Ghost, and Team Axel following them. So impressive to see M80 up there as they continue their very, very good run of form. Another quarterfinals appearance. We'll see them move past, and Dignitas not making it to quarterfinals. We'll see them move past Dignitas into that top 5 for a major spot, and that would just be a phenomenal result for them.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just to point out, to surface it a little bit, I just want to talk about that 5th spot. So the top 4 spots we're looking at. I mean, Gen G, they're already pretty much all the way up there, right? They're 8 points ahead of Complexity, and
they have already punched their ticket to the major.
Yeah, they're 20 points ahead of the 5th place mark, right? But that 5th place mark, Dignitas, right now they're at 20, and there are 2 at 19 and 3 more at 16. So we're looking at 6 teams. Potentially 7, when you're looking at Coin version 1, that's a 7-point difference, so that's a little bit harder to overcome, right? They'd have to do all significantly better than Dignitas, but I would say 20 to 16, 4-point sweep. That's 4-point split between those two. It's very doable. So that means we're looking at a straight up brawl for that 5th slot between 5 teams. And it's going to be very exciting to see what happens in Winter Invitational, because the top 4 are probably still going to be the top 4 after Invitational. It would be my take on it. But that 5th spot, there's no telling who's going to have it. I want to see M80. M80 has been on fire, and if they continue that, they're going to be the ones at Major.
I would agree with you on that one. But, it's all going to come down to that last regional, which we will talk a little bit about here. There's a little bit of maybe confusion's not the right word, but it's a little bit weird, if you ask me. So the Winter Invitational is for the top 16 teams in point ranking based on total points of the season thus far, not just the winter split points. So in this case, it's all of the people in the winter that competed in, that we've been talking about thus far. However, the 16th spot is currently now being occupied by Ghost Gaming, who get a Winter Invitational invite because they have one more World Championship point than Accru, because Accru did not exist in the fall split. So it's interesting to me that the invitational of each split is based on total points as opposed to just split points. So I think that, for seeding, for, competition level, I think it should be the teams that are currently sitting there for each split, which then would put Accru above Ghost Gaming and Team Axel in the rankings, and would bump. They'd have to go to a tiebreaker for Axel and Ghost Gaming, but I think that that's personally a better way to do it, because now, Accru, after having performed better in the winter split than than the teams above them, have, 2 months off now as they prepare for the Spring Open, which is the next event that they can try and qualify for.
I completely agree. It's a little strange that if you look at just straight points for this split, why the invitationals don't use just the points from the split that they're the invitational of, I don't know. I don't understand why, because if you look at just this split, Accru would be in above Optic Gaming. They would be in above Shopify. They would be in above Ghost Gaming. They'd be in above all these different people, but they're not, because it's taking it's putting them all the way down at the bottom because they didn't exist. So I don't know. It's weird. It's fuzzy math to me, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they should reward the teams that are performing well in that regional, right? So if Optic doesn't deserve, they have not had a good winter split. They've been out in their group both regional events so far. So if there's a team that's performing better, which, Accru has performed better than them by winning more group stage matches, because Optic has gone 0-3 the past 2 regional events, they deserve to be in my own personal opinion. So, but until the end of the season, this is what it is. So as we continue moving forward, Accru has an even bigger hill to climb, as you get 3 points for just being invited to the Winter Invitational, and they do not get those 3 points. So when the time rolls around for the Spring Invitational to come, they're going to have to leapfrog some teams. So, hopefully they're able to do that, because I think that they've certainly performed better than a lot of the teams ahead of them. So like Ghost, Axel, Optic, Shopify. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yep. Well, and we see that it can be done. I mean, look at M80 alone. M80's put in 16 points this split, so they can do it. They'll just need to, they'll need to place much higher than some of these other teams. But the other side of it is true also. If Optic Gaming keeps playing like they're playing, then they're just going to be out in round 1, and it's not going to matter. They're not going to get more than those 3 points. And if Accru keeps playing like they're playing, they'll easily make up that gap.
With that being said, we can wrap up North America and kind of take everyone around the world. And we'll start with OCE. In OCE, Pioneers, the big shockers in this are Pioneers and Ground Zero. Neither of them topped their group. They both finished second place in their group. and they, aren't the top of the groups, which was very surprising to me. However, that didn't stop either of them, as Pioneers take down Power in the quarterfinals and still make the grand finals. But Ground Zero will win their second straight regional event, and also win their second straight Super Locky grudge match, as Super Locky and Ground Zero take down his former team, Pioneers, in the grand finals.
And then moving on to MENA, we are looking at pretty much what we've seen in the past, which is it's looking like it's a 2-team region. We got Rule 1 and Falcons. They're still duking it out. But the story remains the same. You have Falcons meeting with Rule 1 in the grand final and ending up winning it overall. This one was a little bit closer. Previous event, the Falcons swept Rule 1. This time, Rule 1 did take one game off of them in grand finals. So we keep up this pattern, then sometime next season, Rule 1 will beat the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we're both fans of Sunless Khan, so we both want to see Rule 1 do well. So, hopefully
Yes.
they can try to figure some stuff out. But, time is running out for them to try and make this major. So I think that they will have to, unfortunately, start looking ahead to the spring split with only one MENA slot for the winter major. Last, but certainly not least, everyone's favorite because of how wrong we usually are, let's go ahead and take a preview into the winter invitational predictions for EU, and we'll go from there. So with that being said, who do you think is going to top each group, and who do you think is going to be eliminated from each group?
Oh, I'm so bad at EU, man. Well, I mean, safe bet group. I think we're gonna see Carmine Corp and then German Amigos going through with Solary with Sub being eliminated. Group B, BDS is eliminated. Everybody else goes through. This is a shot in the dark. Let's say Moist takes the top slot there. Actually, that's not even a shot in the dark. Moist is on fire, if I remember correct from last. Oh no, Group C. I don't know. Vitality maybe. Vitality takes it, and well, Fax Dop is obviously the cannon fodder in that group, and so we'll see Vitality take it, Team Liquid and Winners Resolve getting in as second, third, and then Group D. Oh no, Oxygen or Quadrant. Those are my choices for number one. This is a coin toss. I'm gonna call Oxygen just because Wikipedia has them up on the top. So I'll put just in that with Monaco Esports going out the bottom.
Okay. I am pretty similar. However, I'm going to say German Amigos top Group A and Solary are eliminated. I think G1 top Group 1 or Group B and Tundra are eliminated. In Group C, I got Team Liquid winning, and Fafadox, Dop, whatever. I can't. I'm very sorry for mispronouncing that. They are eliminated. And in Group D, I have Quadrant taking it and Monaco Esports being eliminated.
Nice. You and I actually disagree on all four groups?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right, everybody. I hope somebody's keeping score, because at the moment I think I am not whooping your butt in predictions, because you had M80 like 3 weeks ago for the first NA event and they absolutely rocked. So
I would say for the most part you're generally more right but occasionally I'll have some really good ones, like for the last EU event, I predicted Team Liquid to make the grand finals, and they did. So, occasionally I get one really right, but I feel like you've been right more often than I am.
We should come up with a point system for this.
Yeah, probably.
All right, playoffs. Event as a whole, who's taking it? I'm calling Carmine Corp. That seems like the safe bet. They have been, they're pretty much the Gen G of their region. They may not be 6 grand finals in a row better than the rest of the region, but they have been showing that they are very strong contenders to be the top team there. I think we're going to see a Carmine Corp, and I have no idea who they'll be up against. So kind of a shot in the dark. Let's give it a Moist Esport Carmine Corp grand final.
And then do you have a bold prediction or a hot take?
Well, I'm going to say that we're going to see German Amigos sweep some people that people aren't going to expect. German Amigos are kind of on the up and up right now. I think that they are probably going to run into Oxygen or Quadrant in playoffs and beat them. That's my hot take.
Okay, that's a good one. I mean, I think I'm still a little bit surprised German Amigos hasn't been picked up by an org yet. I think that they've had some really good results recently, and I would be surprised if they're not picked up before the fall or before the winter major. But as for me, I'm gonna stick with my horse, pun intended here, and I'm gonna take Team Liquid to win it all. I think that they looked fantastic last major. I think that they were a little bit shocked in the grand final by Carmine Corp and how just absolutely clinical they were. And I think that they've been able to regroup. They have more experience. They've gone farther in the regional. And I think that they will take this regional. And as for my bold or hot take, I'm going to say Carmine Corp does not make the grand finals.
All right, you can do better than that. That's barely a hot take.
That they're not going to make grand finals?
Okay, fine. Maybe. That does not. Okay. I don't
Fine,
know.
I'll be super
specific.
I'll be super
harder.
I'll be super specific. BDS make playoffs, lose in round 1 again. Team Vitality will take down Carmine Corp. Can that even happen?
Oh.
Hold on. Can that even happen?
See, nope, I like that though.
Yeah, okay. I'll say Vitality take down Carmine Corp in semifinals and play Team Liquid in the grand finals.
Okay. That is a hot take.
That is super specific because there's only like one way that can happen, but hey, we will get there.
Dude, that's how you did your last one too. Your last one was like so specific, a certain, the stars had to align just right. Like, oh man. But yeah, all right. So, if I were in your shoes, I would just said Vitality makes it to the grand final. That seems more of a hot take. But man, you like to make it hard. If it's right, then you get all the points and you win all the that just puts you ahead of me on whatever invisible point system we're using. How's that?
Yeah. Well, hey, we can start keeping track from here on out, right? And then the loser has to buy the first round.
All right. It sounds good to me. Oh man. Well, that's it. That's all on our script, guys. So, thank you all for joining in. Thanks for listening to two escaped village idiots talk about soccer carball for a bit. And as always
remember to choose boost over ball. Thank you for listening to the Boost Over Ball podcast.